Hi, this is Anthony D'Alessandro of Deadline Hollywood, and this is our TIFF studio interview with the director and the executive producer of the Fremantle series M, Son of the Century, Mr. Joe Wright, and the star of the show as Il Duce Benito Mussolini himself, Luca Marinelli.
Buonasera.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
So the first question I have to ask you is, this is somewhat soon after Darkest Hour. And I'm curious, just as you analyzed and assessed Winston Churchill, I'm just curious about what you found out about Mussolini. Are these, are both of these guys, are they somewhat flawed as world leaders? Did you find any kind of interesting similarities or ironies?
Mussolini was really in the shadows as far as British awareness of the Second World War goes. And the period of the show, as you know, goes from 1919 to 1925. Churchill, I guess what I learned making Darkest Hour was that the historical narrative is not enough. It has to be about something deeper. So for me, Darkest Hour really was a movie about doubt, about how one can overcome self-doubt to lead a nation. But this is the third piece I've made set in this period, if you consider Atonement and then Darkest Hour and now this. And I'm fascinated by that period because it's defined where we are now. Also, it defines who I am, because my dad was born in 1906. And so he was a man during this period. And so for me to try and get as many perspectives of that period and to try and understand the world in which he was living and the world that they created for us.
And then tell us about finding Luca to play the role, and what struck you.
It was quite simple, actually. I'd like to say that I went on an exhaustive search. I didn't. Luca's, quite famous in Italy, and Lorenzo Miele, our mutual friend, suggested that I look at Luca's work. I did so. I watched as much of his work as I could, and discovered an actor of sheer luminosity and brilliance, really. I mean, I genuinely believe that Luca's the greatest actor of his generation in the world. And so for me, it was a total no-brainer once I met and saw Luca's work, and then we met in Berlin, where Luca lives, and it was, it was easy, really. The making of the show was not easy, but the casting of Luca was...
How so?
Because it was a monumental undertaking. I mean, 8 hours is a lot of screen time.
How many atonements is that?
Well, that's 4, right? That's 4 atonements. And it was a 127-day shoot.
Oh, wow.
And it was all in a language that I barely understand. Tackling a political history that's very convoluted and complicated, and so getting my head around that. But it's really interesting to make a piece of work that one so passionately believes is more important than you are. It was, we were at the service of something far more important than ourselves as artists or individuals.
So, Luca, it's often said that, when antagonists are painted in cinema or in TV, they should be made complex. There should be something there. They shouldn't be totally evil. There should be something there to sympathize with them. And I'm just curious, with someone as notorious as Mussolini, did you find any kind of humanity in him?
I think that at the beginning the choices were really important, not to use some kind of adjective that were dehumanizing him. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah.
So I really avoid the use of he's the devil, he's crazy, because it puts him out of our planet. I think it's just a way to defend us, I think, because he's coming from human society. And so, of course, he's a human, but he's a criminal. So that was the thing that I wanted to do at the beginning. So avoid some kind of adjective that were very dangerous, I think.
In the show, what's extremely important for him is to get the favor of these disenfranchised veterans of the Great War. And I'm just curious, was he sincere with that? Was he genuine? Was he genuine with that?
I don't think he was sincere about anything.
Yeah.
I think he had an enormous hole in his soul, and a total lack of moral compass, and everything was about opportunity. He saw opportunities amongst the disenfranchised veterans that he could exploit for his own rise. It's all about the exploitation of legitimate concerns. I mean, these veterans did have legitimate concerns, which he then exploited. And he continued to do so with the general populace. And we see that happening now with the far right across the world. That's what he invented. He invented far right populism.
I was going to say the show is very much an echo of what's going on now.
And at first, we thought, oh, we want to try and find parallels between then and now so that it can be more relevant for an audience and blah, blah, blah. In the end, what we realized is that we should actually take as much of our own opinion out of it. You don't need to draw those parallels. All you need to do is present the facts, tell the story as it happened, really as it happened there and then, and audiences can draw their own conclusions, can find their own parallels to respect the audience enough. There are a couple that made it through because we couldn't resist them. One in particular that I think you maybe know what I'm talking about, the only line in English in the whole show. However, we try to avoid kind of being too didactic.
I was going to ask both of you, what do you hope audiences walk away with after watching this show?
I really hope that they are gonna receive our message. Yeah, because as an anti-fascist, I really enjoyed the project because I felt that I don't know if you say that, I felt really protected in work with Joe and with all the crew and with the production and everyone. So I hope that they are gonna receive our message, and as Joe said, that they are gonna make their own thoughts about like what was there and what is it now. So
I hope that the audience come away as I did from making the work, understanding the dangers of sleepwalking into the kind of peril that Mussolini presented. But we really set out to make a piece of entertainment, and I think it is a piece of entertainment. But we also set out to make something that didn't just preach to the converted. There's no point in doing that. I'm never going to convert a far-right fascist to our side. Sounds a bit difficult. It's not really side, but our way of thinking. However, I think there's a big section in the middle, possibly of younger people as well, And I think the show does appeal to younger people who haven't necessarily thought too much about where that word fascism comes from, where the far right idea started, and I hope to reach them and to excite them to protest, excite them to make choices.
Can you tell us what you're working on next?
Yeah, I'm just finishing a pilot for a TV show with Michael Fassbender and Richard Gere that comes out later this year. And I'm figuring out what movie I want to do. I haven't done a movie for a little while, so I think I'll do a movie next.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Son of the Century, Joe Wright, Luca Marinelli. Thank you. Thank you. Mille grazie.
Thank you.